header of Buxton. Puts it into an area. Keogh! Zamora! Unbelievable! Company. Coutinho! Liverpool lead again! Darmian trying to close him down. Sanchez going, oh no! Pick that one out! It's 3 inside 20 minutes.
Hello and welcome to the Inches Wide podcast. I'm Beales, Hobson.
And I'm Dan Godfrey, and today we'll be discussing the repercussions on sport of the Paris terror attacks. We'll also be discussing the Euros.
Yeah, we'll take an in-depth look at Northern Ireland's chances in the Euros, and we'll also have a phone interview with a Northern Ireland fan, Ben McKenna.
We're also going to be speaking about the England squad, and then we'll move on to the domestic stuff, but not before we talk about the nations who didn't qualify, such as the Netherlands.
Yeah, we'll also be talking about Greece and their downfall from the Euro 2004 winning team to the team that didn't even qualify for this year's and actually came rock bottom of their group.
All of that coming up.
So a tough week for sport in general, Dan. Obviously Friday night's events overshadowing a lot of this week's sport. It was good to see the game go ahead last night though at Wembley. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, it was a massive human tragedy, 129 victims killed. So obviously with England playing France, it was a good time for us to show our support. Obviously the world's been united with the amount of support for the victims in Paris and their families, and I think it was a really emotional occasion to see England play France last night.
Yeah, I thought the FA handled it pretty well. There wasn't much that they could do about it apart from just show togetherness, and you could see that on the pitch. Obviously you could argue that France weren't really up for it, but England definitely were, and that was evident with the result. We won 2-0, and that's obviously quite good. Looking forward to the Euros. Obviously, people argue that France weren't really themselves, and they've got a lot to go through this week, and that's pretty much what they have. But England can take a lot of positives away from it, and obviously France probably can take away the occasion of seeing another country come together with them and actually feel part of something and being part of something.
Yeah, I think that I do agree with you, to be honest, because like you can argue that France went up for it, but they're pros and they still wanted to win the game. Obviously, to the French in general, the last thing on their minds would be the result at Wembley last night. But I mean, the way it personally affected some of the France players, Antoine Griezmann and Lassana Diarra. Yeah. But I think France, like they were a true credit to themselves. The way that they and their fans showed up at Wembley and made the occasion what it was, and I think the FA and England duly obliged.
Yeah, they've got a lot to be proud of, the French and the English, and obviously all the fans that turned out as well. There's a lot of terror scares beforehand as well. We saw games called off in both Germany and in Belgium prior to the game, so security had to be stepped up, and it was such a large operation, but everything went so smoothly, and it was such a good spectacle to see as from an England point of view, and obviously from a France point of view it was even bigger.
Yeah, it was. I think it's such a shame to see two of the games called off. Obviously in Belgium their government raised the terror level to 3, which apparently in Belgium indicates a serious threat, and obviously the truck bomb scare that was found in Hanover is utterly shocking.
Yeah,
but
truly shocking.
It's at least consolation to see everything run smoothly at Wembley last night.
Yeah, for anybody that didn't actually know what happened in Germany last night, an alleged truck bomb was found outside the stadium. Allegedly tried to get inside the stadium as well, so there was quite a lot going on last night. I've seen a lot on Twitter. It was all just a little bit scary again, and obviously the best decision was to cancel the game, and it's just a shame to see something completely out of sports' hands ruining sports fixtures such as this.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this begs the question to how the security measures are going to go ahead for the Euros in the summer. Obviously, taking place in France, they're definitely going to step up their security measures. That goes without saying, but it's going to be there's going to be quite a lot of anxiety around France and around the world in general. But how do you think France will deal with the scare going into the Euros and presenting the best tournament, the safest tournament possible for everyone?
Well, I still think France are the right nations that host it. I think obviously for 2 terror attacks in the same year, obviously there was Charlie Hebdo last January as well. they've got a lot to be ready for, but they're a big nation. They've got the entire support of Europe behind them, and I'm sure they'll pull it out of the bag, no problem. They've got some good levels of security. I'm sure that'll be helped out with other nations as well, and I just really hope for the sake of victims' families and that this is not going to have an everlasting effect on France as a nation, and to show resilience against it. I think hosting the Euro 2016 tournament will be a massive step forward for them as a country.
Yeah, I do completely agree. It's going to be a massive show of resilience, massive show of strength. France have to remain resolute, and the whole of Europe's behind them, obviously. I mean, the whole world's behind them in a human sense, but obviously when it comes to the Euros, all the other countries, all the other nations, all the other sets of fans will be thoroughly behind France hosting a very good tournament for everyone, because we're all looking forward to it, and to have for ISIS or whoever was behind this dreadful attack. If they're to have their way, if terrorists are to have their way over football and over nations, over unity between nations, then that's not going to happen, is it? I mean, no, we're all going to be behind each other. We're all going to be behind France, and we're going to have a good European Championships.
Alright, now we've got that out of the way and it's been discussed, and obviously such a massive pivotal part of sport this week in general. It's time to move on to something a little more upbeat and something a little more football based. Obviously Euro 2016 is the main topic of conversation this week. We've just finished the playoffs, so we now know who's actually made it through to the Euro 2016 proper, with the draw coming up. I just really want to talk about Northern Ireland and the way that they've actually come through from the team that there was 4 years ago under Trapattoni to the team that they are now, and to actually win their group with such teams as, was it Romania in there?
Romania, yeah, they were in Greece's, but they topped Greece's group.
Yeah, Greece was in there. Obviously, we'll touch on Greece later. Greece come bottom of the group, but it's actually quite a strong group if you look at it. Romania, Finland and Greece are teams that you would not expect Northern Ireland to be beating, especially with players such as, obviously, Kyle Lafferty's been massive, and Lafferty can't even get into the Norwich side, so it's so good to see such a small minnow nation to do so well, especially them being a home nation as well. That's pivotal for the home nations, and it's good to see Wales and obviously England joining. It's just a shame about Scotland, but I'm sure the Irish lads who have qualified will make plenty of noise instead.
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic seeing Northern Ireland go through. Obviously, we'll be speaking to Ben shortly as well, who's obviously very buzzing for the tournament. I mean, Northern Ireland have got those kind of players. Kyle Lafferty, who did say this week that he was willing to go out on loan or even be sold in a bid to consolidate his place in the Northern Ireland squad. You've got Stephen Davis, players like that, Paddy McNair. I mean, Northern Ireland they've got some potential in their team. They've got some talent in their squad, and it's going to be interesting how they exhibit that on the European stage. Yeah,
of course it will. Obviously, you've got to look ahead to the draw now. It's such a big part of the tournament itself. Northern Ireland's potential group, obviously seeding as 4 seeds. They might get lucky. I'm sure they can get Hungary. I think probably a group such as Switzerland, Hungary, and potentially England. I know England have been pretty good up till now in terms of form, only being beaten once, I think, since the World Cup, obviously against Spain on Friday night. But they always seem to rise to the occasion against the English. Obviously, thinking back to David Ely's winner, was it 2007 or something like that? Maybe even before that.
05,
was it 05, something like that?
Read up on that one.
Obviously, David Ely's massive game that for Northern Ireland, and I'm sure they still remind us of it every day when they can. But yeah, in terms of England's chances, we saw encouraging times last night against France. Obviously, big occasion in more than one respect, more than just a friendly, you could say. But I thought England last night were pretty solid, and they showed signs of a team that's maybe a little bit more reformed under Roy Hodgson, a team that's been like reshaped and taught a new way of playing, and you can see that through the young players such as Barkley and Ali, and even Dyer had a good game last night, that they just seem to be more ready for it than they have been before.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can go back to the last 5 years since England laid down sort of more of an unwritten youth policy after the disappointment in South Africa, and then even more disappointment last year in the 2014 World Cup in Brazil. Obviously, more and more players are getting their chance, and I mean there is the argument now coming into it that England don't have the quality that they might have used to, and that anyone who's English plays in the Premier League gets a sniff. But I mean, if you look at odds on who's going to make the squad, there's so many talented players listed down, and the under-21s I think are a lot stronger than they used to be as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think England do have a bright future, and there's going to be some world-class players bred into that system.
Yeah, let's hope so. Anyway, you've got a preliminary squad written down, have you? We're going to go through a potential squad based on current form. This is Dan's idea of the England 23. If you just want to run them through it.
As the goalkeepers, Joe Hart's obviously a given. I mean, very consistent since he's been coming to the Manchester City side, and he plays in the Champions League, plays week in, week out for Man City, who are favourites to win the Premier League. He's obviously a given, and more than likely first choice in the squad. Second choice, I've gone for Jack Butland, Stoke goalkeeper. He's had a fantastic season so far. It was a little bit frustrating for him, you know, and we kind of feared for him that his career might have been a little bit stunted. Obviously, he was behind Asmir Begovic in the pecking order, but ironically, Begovic now at Chelsea. Butland declined the opportunity to go to Chelsea so that he could join Stoke and eventually get more first team football, and that's a true credit to him, because now I think
he's on good form, isn't he?
I do think he's nailed on in the squad, and a very capable understudy to Joe Hart. And for third choice, it's a little bit more difficult, because you might argue it's not as important, but there could well be a situation where two goalkeepers are under an injury or a suspension. I'm going to go for Tom Heaton personally. He's been in the England squad more of late. He's still uncapped, if I remember rightly, as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's having a very good season with Burnley. I mean, you can make all your arguments you want about him being a Championship player, but I think he handled it well in the Premier League in a tough season for Burnley last year. Obviously, you got Ben Foster and Fraser Forster as well, but I think Heaton's just been more consistent and deserves a crack in the squad, even if he doesn't get to play in the tournament.
Yeah.
As far as the defence goes, I picked 8 defenders. Quite a versatile lineup. I mean, you've got Gary Cahill in there, who's obviously the vice captain. Gone for Phil Jagielka and Chris Smalling as well. There's 2 more centre halves. Smalling can also play right back if needs be. Same applies to Phil Jones. He's a versatile defender. I've got him in there as well. I was torn between him and Kyle Walker, but I think Phil Jones has more promise and has more consistency playing for England. John Stones I've put in there as well. Very good defender. I know you rate him highly as well, don't you?
Yeah, massively, yeah.
I mean, he was the subject of so many big money bids from Chelsea in the summer, several of them from Jose Mourinho. He's obviously very highly rated by some of the leading managers in the business, which you can say what you like. We'll be touching on Mourinho a bit later on, but I've got John Stones in there. I've got Nathaniel Klein, who for me would be first choice right back. I've got Luke Shaw as well, who for me would be first choice left back, and we can discuss that a little bit more.
Well, he's going to be injured, obviously, for the vast majority of the season, and say touch and go, he comes back February, March time. Will he walk straight back into the United squad? Will he get enough match fitness? There's a lot to think about. Obviously, things might change over the course of the season, but he's obviously suffered such an horrible injury in the Champions League not too long ago. It's going to be a massive year for Luke Shaw. He was England's most solid England left back, no doubt, before his injury. But it's just begs the question that will he be good enough when he comes back? That is the
I'm hoping so, because he's been around for quite a while, and it's easy to forget he's only 20, and I think his recuperation period is massive for him. A lot of punters have been backing him to have a speedy recovery. So if he can gain some match fitness, and it's all about that sharpness.
Yeah.
If he can get that going for United, get a good string of games together, maybe about 10, like a minimum of 10. Maybe hopefully about 20 games for United towards the end of their season, and then he can sort of get a good run to go in the England squad, because England, as far as left backs are concerned, there's a lot of choice. I mean, in behind Shaw, I would probably still take Leighton Baines, but it's a difficult one because I really like Cresswell for West Ham. But you had a point to make before the show.
Well, obviously,
back Cresswell.
For anybody who doesn't know, Dan's a massive Arsenal fan, and he chose not to put Kieran Gibbs in there. And I thought Gibbs last night when he played against France was arguably one of England's best players. And Gibbs is nowhere even near that 23-man squad, and I don't quite understand why. I know he's not in Arsene Wenger's team come Saturday or in the Champions League very often, but I think on current form and without anything, if he gets a better run in the team, in the Arsenal team, then obviously you can understand that you might change your mind about it. But with him not playing at the moment, is that the reason why you won't put him in the squad?
Right, I think firstly it's important for me to say I wouldn't say he was nowhere near the squad. I think I really do rate Kieran Gibbs. From an Arsenal perspective, I'm glad Nacho Monreal's
Cresswell over Gibbs. Would you really put that in there?
Only because Cresswell's style of attacking, like I think Gibbs is a better defender.
Yeah.
I think as far as defending's concerned, Gibbs is a better bet than Cresswell every day. As for Cresswell though, he offers so much in an attacking sense. He can score goals, he can take set pieces, he can get down that left hand side, and I think in recent tournaments England have been they've not been free scoring, and sometimes they've been lacking in creativity. And if we can get that sort of width, then Cresswell might be an outside bet. But I think for me, Cresswell and Gibbs are almost on par. It's unfair not to mention Danny Rose as well. I think he's had a good season with Spurs, and it'll be interesting to see how his season plays out in terms of Roy Hodgson's plans. But for left backs, I'd go for Shaw and Baines. Right.
Okay. So moving on to the midfield, you've straight away gone in with Michael Carrick.
I have, yeah.
And obviously, Michael Carrick's a utility, brilliant player. He can. He's not one for the headlines very often. He doesn't score many goals, but it's what he does on the pitch that really speaks volumes. And obviously, you're a big fan of his. So
I think Michael Carrick's the sort of player that the less attention he gets, the better he's doing his job. He's sort
similar
of one
to a referee, you know.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, if they're not being talked about, it means they're doing something right. Yeah, and I think that applies to Michael Carrick's sort of deep line style of play that he takes on for United, and in England's squad he was unlucky against Spain being carried off, but I think you just get that fitness back on track, that full sharpness back on track. He shouldn't be a problem. I think he suits that number 4 role for England so well, and also he has that vital experience. He's been playing the Premier League for over 10 years, and
that is big.
And the fact that you've had players retiring like Gerrard, Lampard and Beckham in the last 5 years, it's important that we maintain that balance and we don't have that naivety. Carrick's that sort of player that can help keep England's feet firmly on the ground.
Keep the young ones in order. I completely understand. You've also gone with James Milner, Ross Barkley, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. Obviously, there's a few more after that: Walcott, Sterling, Shelvey, or Henderson, and Ali or Wilshere. Now, I personally would take Ali and Wilshere. I think last night Ali showed that it was a good enough player to rise to that sort of occasion. Jack Wilshere, obviously injury free, is one of the best footballers that England's had in the past 10 years. And he showed that against Slovenia in the Euros, scoring 2 absolute crackers.
That was brilliant.
But do you want to just run quickly through the midfield? Is it 7 or 8 that you've chose out?
I think there's 8, but I'll just run through them. Some of them are still possibilities. It's not quite. It's still a provisional squad, but like James Milner, I think he's one of the most industrious, hard-working players that England sort of need. I think we've got a lot of flair in the squad going forward with the likes of Sterling, Oxlade-Chamberlain, and you've got Sturridge up there as well, Harry Kane, players who can hold the ball up and do things with it and make things happen. So I think it's important to have a workhorse like James Milner in there, quietly gets on with his job, always breaks into a huge sweat by the end of the game, and I think he's that. I mean, if you want a flair player to go and beat players down the right hand side and put in that width, that's why I'm talking about width coming from the fullback, so that you can have workhorses like Milner in the midfield. I've gone for Ross Barkley through the middle of midfield because I think. I'll admit, a couple of years ago I thought he was overrated. But,
yeah, me too. Now he came to Leeds and he couldn't even get in the Leeds side.
Yeah.
Me being a big Leeds fan, obviously we thought, we've got a decent young player here. We could have actually taken him in, but Neil Warnock decided to keep Michael Browning over the top, and obviously we've missed out there big time. But it's just one of those things. That's football.
I used to like Michael Brown from his Pompey days, I will admit. I obviously come from Portsmouth, I've seen him a few times. But you got, Ross Barkley has come on leaps and bounds in the last year, still a young player as well. I think the only thing that's missing for him is decision making. I think it's a widely seen thing that he does tend to take on one player too many rather than play the right ball.
Of course. It comes with confidence though, really. You've got to look at it, for such a young lad to be so confident on the ball and to just be so industrious and attack minded, and he can defend as well. I'm not taking that away from him, but he's such a good player going forward, and to mix that with the likes of Sterling, I think then those two can just really make a big impact in France next year.
I think Ross Barkley is an absolute given, and these little flaws with his decision making and his end product, they're just something that can be ironed out fairly easily in the next year or two, and I think he's going to be an influential player for us at the Euros. I've gone for Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain in there as well, Theo Walcott, they're both in the squad, but it's important. I would play Walcott as a wide player. He's not a striker. He had that spell of form for Arsenal where he was knocking in goals before he got injured at Sheffield Wednesday. Ironically, 10 minutes after Oxlade-Chamberlain went down as well. It was a dark day for us Gooners. But Walcott and Oxlade-Chamberlain, I'd have them both as wide players. Chamberlain, again, versatile. He's played through the middle a fair bit lately. And then, obviously, Raheem Sterling, who's an absolute given for me.
First name on the squad in my
He will, exactly, yeah. He'll be world class, and I'll put him in the midfielders section just because you've got more out and out strikers alongside Wayne Rooney in the forwards category. But then centrally, I really want to take Jack Wilshere, but then Dele Alli has been absolutely phenomenal. It was at 19 you would question whether he could bring it from two tiers up. He was playing and scoring goals and turning games in Milton Keynes. He was playing for MK, he was doing so well. He's earned his move to Tottenham, and I think, some people said when he joined it was too early, but I think it's come at the right time for him. He's grabbed the opportunity well. Yeah,
of course. Well, obviously, more evidence of that for players that come through the likes of League One. You've got to look at Theo Walcott, who came from Southampton straight through to Arsenal, and within a few seasons, he made the England squad in was it 2010?
2006. He was 17. Ericsson picked it. He didn't play though.
He was uncapped. I remember that it caused a big scandal, and there was a lot of it in the media. Obviously, Oxlade-Chamberlain's another one that came from Southampton in League One and took the big step forward and showed that he could do it. So it's just good to see that our lower leagues can produce such talent. Do you want to move on to the forwards?
I'll just touch on Shelvey and Henderson first. Shelvey still comes into that category, and I think obviously it was always going to be a little bit limited for him at Liverpool, but he showed glimpses of what he can do. I think he's one of the best passers in the league. I think he's one of the most hard-working central players in the league, and I think that in the next 5 years he'll be one of them sort of players who can keep a Premier League career going for the next 10 years, like a Gareth Barry, like a Gareth Barry, like a Michael Carrick.
Exactly.
And then you've got Henderson as well, who's been getting a fair few caps lately. I think he's improved.
Obviously, Liverpool captain as well.
Yeah, he's Liverpool captain. Sometimes I haven't quite seen the hype with him that other people have, but I think he's that sort of nailed-on player that England could do with. Yeah. And now for the forwards, Wayne Rooney, absolute given. I think he's better in that number 10 role that he's brought more into his career now. At 30, I think, obviously now, he's been around for so long. And it's hard to believe that he's still only 30.
14 years he's been playing.
He was 16, 17, banging in goals for Everton. Joined United at 18, and world class for me still. You can say what you like about his dips in and out of form at United, but he's England's captain. He's our all-time record goal scorer. He's got to be in there. And then you've got for the out-and-out strikers, you got three quite similar players. I've picked Sturridge, Harry Kane, and Jamie Vardy. Danny Sturridge has struggled with injuries, but I think on his day he can be world class. And he's got the confidence you need.
Obviously, he's got experience of scoring and performing in big tournaments. Obviously, scored against Italy in the World Cup. So he's one of the only players in the entire squad that's actually scored a goal in a World Cup. So
that can do a lot for confidence. Just that sort of knowledge compared to the other players who are coming through and staking their claim.
Experience, of course.
And I think he's an exciting player. He's one of our most exciting talents. Harry Kane, 30 goals last season.
Well, yeah. Where do you start with Harry Kane? He's
whose name is Harry Kane?
Yeah, well, obviously, Dan being a big Arsenal fan, he's probably biting your tongue when you're talking about Harry Kane, but you cannot really argue against his talent. He really, really is, and he showed it again last night that he's a massive, massive talent, and I'm a big fan of his. And I think up there with Sterling as one of the first players in Roy Hodgson's squad for Euro 2016.
And obviously it's disappointing when you've got like the likes of Danny Welbeck and Andy Carroll, who both went to the Euros. They both scored in that game against Sweden that we came from behind to win 3-2 back in 2012. I mean, they're talented footballers, but they've both struggled with injury, and they've seemed to go off the England radar a bit, which is unfortunate. But
is there a way back for Danny Welbeck?
I think there is. He's only about 25.
But with such competition, like you're about to talk about Jamie Vardy now, and I'm talking, it's on the verge of breaking Premier League records.
I mean, with Jamie Vardy, it's a remarkable one. Obviously, he started at Stocksbridge Park Steels.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just.
I mean, 3 years ago he was at Fleetwood Town.
He was at Fleetwood, yeah, and he came up from non-league with them as well.
Unbelievable. Went
to Leicester, and now obviously. Leicester are in the top 4 of the Premier League, and Vardy's scoring in every game.
Vardy's a massive, massive part of that, and without Vardy, Leicester are probably mid-table.
And obviously, where he's come from, and he's sort of that, he's doing non-league proud, and he's representing, and people, and he's still.
He's kind of like a really good Ricky Lambert.
Yeah, I think Ricky Lambert only didn't get as much of a chance because he broke into the England squad very late in his career, and now with Lambert, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think Lambert will play for England again personally.
No,
but I think he's had his spell when he was scoring goals at Southampton. But Jamie Vardy, it's absolutely remarkable. I just hope, from a neutral perspective, that he can keep his goal scoring going all season. Yeah. Because then he's always going to have cynics because of the type of player he is and where he's come from. Yeah. They're the sort of armchair fans who don't take any notice of crop from non-league. Yeah. So I think Jamie Vardy's nailed on with Kane, Sturridge.
So that's Dan's 23-man squad, or provisional 23-man squad, based on current form. Do you want to really, really, really quickly run us through your starting lineup?
Yeah. I'll go for a 4-1-3-2. I'll go for Hart in goal, Klein, Cahill, Smalling and Shaw, Carrick, Holden, Milner, Barkley and Sterling, Rooney, and then Sturridge up top. Right.
Well, I was thinking about moving on, but with a squad like that and a team such as that, I just want to like obviously have a conversation about. So the first one I want to discuss is Chris Smalling at centre back. Yes, he's been fantastic for Manchester United. I can't argue with that. He's been arguably probably the best informed centre back this season, especially at Manchester United. Obviously a big side, but I just think John Stones is just probably more ready. I think it showed last night. He played against France. He was bringing the ball out. His composure on the ball is something that we've not had for a long, long time for an England centre-back. He seems to be confident, a lot more confident on the ball in possession. And that's what we really need. It's a player like what France had last night as well in Varane. Varane's a massive, massive upcoming centre-back. And I think John Stones is a similar player.
I think it's a posing question, really. I think obviously the preferred centre back pairing for the last couple of years has been Cahill and Jagielka, and obviously.
Do you think Jagielka will get anywhere near the squad, first team?
He'll get in the squad, but I don't think he'll make the starting 11. I think it's Smalling or Stones. I would only just edge Smalling through because. I mean, Stones has looked so reassured and so reliable for his, like beyond his years. But with Smalling, he's got the prowess in the box as well, defending and attacking. He's got the big game experience.
He's playing in Champions League week in week out.
He's playing in the Champions League, and he's going for the Premier League title with Man United. Yeah. So he's playing big games with a lot of pressure on, a lot of massive burden of pressure every week, whereas Stones isn't.
That's fairly justified. I can't really argue with that. Luke Shaw at left back, that's one that you've really got set in stone. But obviously, I think with such a massive array of talented left backs for England, I think Kieran Gibbs should be there or thereabouts. Maybe not starting, but it all comes down to how the rehab period for Luke Shaw, how he comes back from his injury,
and Leighton Baines
as well. Of course, if Leighton Baines comes back and he's performing like he used to perform, I think maybe Shaw will be probably really one of the names that's going to be talked about quite a lot because of the level of competition that he's got for that position. Obviously, moving to midfield now, you've gone with Milner and Carrick. Now, they're two players that, yes, I'd put in my squad, but I would just not have them in my starting 11. Yeah. You've put Dyer nowhere near the squad. Well, obviously nearby the squad, but you've not put Dyer in your 23, whereas he would be in my 23. I know he's not played very often, but when he has played, he's showed that he can do it, and even at such a young age, he's ready for it.
I just want to see Dyer play for England on a more regular basis. Yeah. Obviously, you've got to start somewhere, but if he can get a decent run of caps together, putting in steady performances, then I would consider him for the squad. And as you mentioned, there with the left backs, like we talked about that for 5 minutes earlier, you could at the moment you could roll a dice and you'd have as much chance of guessing who our left backs are going to be in.
It's
France.
Such a big position for the England lads. Milner and Carrick. Like, are you really certain about those two? Are they going to deliver a Euro title for England, or do we need creativity, or players such as Dele Alli, who showed last night they can play against the top players in the world? Obviously kept Paul Pogba pretty quiet for the majority of the game. I think my other CDM would be possibly Jack Wilshere, fully fit Wilshere, obviously a workhorse.
You have a habit of calling them CDMs. The old FIFA terminology.
The central defensive midfielders, because obviously you can have defensive midfielders in any part of the game, but I'm looking at two defensive midfielder players and two attacking midfield players. My two attacking midfield players would be Barkley and Sterling. I think fantastic footballers. My two strikers would be Wayne Rooney and Harry Kane. And I think with a 4-2-2-2 formation, that would probably be our best way going forward. And obviously defensively, all four of the midfielders can play central roles if needs be. And obviously Sterling and Barkley have both got experience playing on the wing. So I just can't really see any other way of playing a game where the players are going to play in a different formation and possibly do the roles in the way that they did.
If we're talking about Hodgson's preferred sort of setup for England, then that would suit more players like Dele Alli and Jack Wilshere. With Milner and Carrick, I just think they're thoroughbred English grit, which is what we need in balance with the flair that we've got, like Sterling, like Oxlade-Chamberlain, and even to a certain extent like Jack Wilshere and Dele Alli, who can move forward with the ball so well. And that goal that Dele Alli scored last night, it shows he's none shy of confidence, is he? 19. No. I mean, he's our age.
Yeah, he's the same age as us. Yeah. It's ridiculous. Like, we're sat in a studio talking about him, and he's out there being the real deal, doing it all. So and obviously move on to the front two. You've gone with is it Rooney and Sturridge? Now, maybe a bit biased being an Arsenal fan and all that, but I think
no bias has come into that. I think
based on current form,
on form, yeah,
and on hunger and just talent in itself, I think Harry Kane's probably going to be ready by that time. Obviously Sturridge has done it before, and he will be there or thereabouts in the squad, but to leave Kane out after how he's played recently, I think it'd just be a massive mistake for Roy Hodgson.
Yeah, it's a poser. Harry Kane, I mean, is that sort of player who can always deliver you goals, and as long as you give him that sort of confidence and you show that belief in him, he will begin to bang him in again eventually. And Wayne Rooney obviously is that sort of given.
Yeah.
Sturridge just has that raw talent that's come through since a young age and that confidence. And again, there's Jamie Vardy, so it's a poser and one player that we just haven't mentioned.
It's really, really nice to have that dilemma of who we're going to play.
Selection headache, yeah.
It's a massive plus for us going
One
forward.
player that we just haven't mentioned who's gone off the radar, Adam Lallana. Obviously, he's been in and around the England squad for a fair while now. He personally wouldn't make my 23. He'd probably make the provisional 30 that Roy Hodgson will pick in sort of May time.
Not 23 either.
But I mean, I think he looked more exciting at Southampton than he does at Liverpool.
Yeah. So we've got Ben McKenna on the line now, who's a Northern Ireland fan. He's Northern Ireland born and bred. Ben, what's your opinions on Northern Ireland's chances at the Euros?
I think the seedings don't really give us a fair chance, to be honest, to get out of our group. But I do think, depending on the group that we draw, we could get out of the group going off our performances in the qualifying stages. It's been the best I've ever seen us play, to be honest. It's a great time to be a Northern Ireland fan. I just think the seedings again is I don't agree with it personally. You know, we top the group and we're in the fourth pot. But again, I don't make the rules. But I think to get to the Euros is almost winning it for us. So it's not even. I don't even think it matters how we do. I don't think we'll get out of the group, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. We're just happy to be there.
That was Ben McKenna on the line there, discussing Northern Ireland's chances at the Euro 2016 in France. Right, shall we move on?
We shall indeed.
Right, well, that lasted a lot longer than I thought it was going to do. Anyway, it's time for a bit of a Northern Ireland chat, right?
Yep.
Massive outsiders going into the qualifying group, and for them to be table toppers and to qualify like they did was just simply incredible, really. So it's good to see a team such as Northern Ireland to actually make it to the competition such as this.
I mean, yeah. Northern Ireland topped a group in it with Greece, who came bottom, who won Euro 2004.
11 years ago.
11 years ago, they won the Euros.
They won the Euros.
They finished in a group behind Faroe Islands.
Yeah.
I mean, they lost at home to them.
Unbelievable.
And we were talking about Northern Ireland. They topped that group. And obviously Hungary went through in the playoffs. Romania went through with Northern Ireland. And Hungary went through in the playoffs, which is remarkable, against a Norway side, who I saw a stat the other day. They've lost every November home game for the last 21 years. And that's obviously carried on. Hungary have gone through against the odds. But Northern Ireland... on
a bigger scale, what about the nations that didn't quite make it? Obviously, the first one you can look at, the biggest name is Holland. Obviously, World Cup finalists 2010. They obviously performed in the last major tournament as well in the World Cup. But it's just... all seemed to have gone downhill.
It didn't happen for them, did it? And one of their most influential players, Robin van Persie, the fact that it was the first, it must be the first own goal of his career, that gave Czech Republic a 3-goal buffer against them that they couldn't recover from, and that was their crucial game.
That was it. That was
to keep it alive,
wasn't it? Really.
That was to keep it alive.
I mean,
they ended up losing 3-2.
They had a chance. They could have done it, and they just seemed to bottle it right when it mattered.
I mean, it's that there always seems to be one or two, don't there, who thoroughly disappoint, and for them not to qualify in a 24-team tournament with all due respect, the likes of Hungary and Albania, even Wales and Northern Ireland, Iceland,
unbelievable, really, considering obviously the side that they still have. Obviously, you can look at Wesley Sneijder, world class, you could say. Van Persie,
Iron Robben,
massive name. He's even came in the top 3 in the Ballon d'Or not long back. Champions League winner with Bayern Munich, Champions League winning goal scorer, 2013. Is that right?
Yeah, it was at Wembley, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was at Dortmund. And obviously you can look at further afield. Wijnaldum, he's been impressive at Newcastle, and for players like that to not make it to a major tournament where 24 teams are there, and it's not been that format for a while, but you can just sense that there's just something not right amongst Holland.
No, and they definitely will be back. I mean, Dutch football has always produced. I mean, the Eredivisie in Holland always gets its best players robbed out of it as soon as they're a young age. Like Memphis Depay is the most recent one of them.
Wijnaldum's another one.
And when Luis Suarez was at Ajax, he was straight out of there, straight to Liverpool, and now in Barcelona. But Wijnaldum, he's highly rated. Scored 4 in a Premier League game already. And so, it's a difficult one for Holland, but I think they will bounce back. We touched on Greece, Norway and Denmark. Denmark got knocked out by Sweden.
Yeah, that was a 50-50 split, really.
It was. They're both relatively decent sides. You could argue Sweden are a bit top-heavy with Ibrahimovic, but he deserves to be at a European tournament.
He's a character, isn't he? So he's obviously going to... He's going to perform when it needs be. He's a big game player, and I think Sweden will... I don't think Sweden will do particularly well, but it'd just be nice to see Ibrahimovic in such a big tournament.
I can't see him doing badly though. I think Sweden could be sniffing around trying to go through.
Pot 2 or pot 3 in the draw. I think they're in pot 3.
They must be in pot 3.
Yeah, they're in pot 3.
As far as the Euros are concerned, they haven't had much luck of late, have they?
No.
But obviously Norway got knocked out by Hungary. That was a shock, but we like shocks, don't we?
Yeah,
as long as it's not England. So. There you go. I think that's about the international scene.
The international is pretty much sorted. Time to move on to a bit of domestic stuff now. Look forward to this weekend's fixture. Obviously, there's a big one in Man City versus Liverpool. It's way too early to say that it's a crucial game, but Man City and Arsenal both pretty much top tied at the top. Is it going to be a massive game in terms of getting the 3 points against a Liverpool side which have looked pretty well under Jurgen Klopp?
Yeah, Liverpool have looked very steady under Jurgen Klopp. They've looked a lot more exciting. Their win at Chelsea was brilliant for them. I think the likes of Coutinho and Benteke, Jordan Ibe as well.
Oh, fantastic!
Klopp really believes in him, and so do I as well. I think he will be.
That's another name we missed out of the England squad.
I don't think this year, but World Cup.
Yeah, World Cup 2018. I think he'll definitely be on the radar. But maybe this tournament's come a bit too soon for him. But he's there to
under Klopp. He's got a great mentor,
I
think Liverpool are perfectly capable of getting a result on Man City. Obviously, as a gooner, I hope they can. But I think Man City obviously are favourites to win the league, and. Arsenal are away at West Brom. On paper, the sort of game that Arsenal can grind out by a goal or two. But
Tony Pulis has got the defence sorted again.
Tony Pulis can play against the Arsenal side.
And he knows how to get a result against
his record when he was managing Stoke was unbelievable, and even for Crystal Palace, he put up a good game against the Gunners. But Man City and Arsenal level on points going into this weekend. It's great that the Premier League's back. Obviously, both City and Arsenal drew at the weekend, so the previous game weekend. And then obviously you've got the likes of United as well. So
can we talk about Chelsea? And
with pleasure.
This has been obviously a massive 2 weeks for Chelsea. This international break, it's given Chelsea Mourinho time to probably sort out what's gone off at Chelsea, because none of us really know. None of us could have predicted this at the start of the season. We all thought that Chelsea would be up there with the likes of City, with the likes of Arsenal, Manchester United, and they're just really struggling. Are they still 16th in the table? I think they were 16th in the table.
15th
they might be 15th or 16th going into the international break. And to think that, and we're approaching December, and it's getting to a point in the season now where, fair enough, you have a bad start to a season, you can rescue it. But it's getting to a point now where Chelsea will be really, really lucky to come anywhere near the European spots.
Yeah, it's. You ask Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool. We talked about him just now. He had that mysterious season with Dortmund where they were bottom for some of the season, and they were in danger of getting relegated. Even with players like Royce and Mkhitaryan. But they ended up coming 7th and getting in Europe. I think Chelsea will do just about the same. We're just looking at the table now. United are 4th with 24 points. Chelsea are 16th with 11. So they're 13 points off the pace.
13 points adrift at this stage in the season.
We're a third of the way through the season, and they're 13 points from the top 4.
It's quite remarkable considering the likes of the players that they've got. And they didn't exactly just leave the squad as it was. They've obviously bolstered it in terms of Pedro coming through from Barcelona. I thought on his day is obviously world class, and he showed that on his debut when he scored.
He was at West Brom.
West Brom.
He was one of the best players on the pitch.
Oh, by far. I think Williams come through. He's one of the only players that's shown any sort of form under the current regime at Chelsea. Kurt Zouma's obviously trying to force his way through. I think they've been struggling without John Terry's leadership on the pitch.
I think Chelsea have always had a great spine through their team, a really strong spine.
Yeah, since 2005.
That's always dug them out results and dug them out titles. But if you think about it, I can pick out a defender, a midfielder, and a striker. Who have really been struggling under Mourinho this season. Ivanovic has had a bit of a poor season by his standards.
Mr. Reliable at Chelsea. He's been absolutely sublime the past 4 or 5 seasons.
I think he has, and I stuck him in my Premier League fantasy team at the start of the season, and now I can't wait to get him out.
Yeah, big mistake.
I think the real one that hit home for people to take notice of Ivanovic's poor season was when Sadio Mane had him on toast when Southampton won at Stamford Bridge.
What performance by Southampton, by the way. That was just ridiculous. Obviously,
definitely.
You can look at Cesc Fabregas as well. He's definitely been struggling. In
the midfield,
massive net, especially with the Euros around the corner as well. He's still in the Spain squad. He played on Friday night, and he played pretty well, to be fair, against England, but he's just not himself, and it's so clear to see, and we don't know why.
And that's led people to start rumours that he sort of started a bit of a protest, a bit of a retreat against Mourinho's
an anti-Mourinho scheme. And the other one that's affected is Diego Costa.
That's the one, yeah. So that's that spine. That's Ivanovic, Fabregas, and Costa.
And
Costa hasn't been prolific.
Massive names that from last season's side that did so well, that just this season just seems to be completely not even half the player they were last season.
I think with Costa, he's just got to get this this mechanism out of his mind that, I mean, it's obviously tactics under Mourinho that he can sort of wind players up. It's worked once this season, unfortunately, against Gabriel, against Arsenal, and now people just turn it around on Costa. He's always liable to get sent off.
Last year he was a new kid on the block. He's come in with all this. He's come from La Liga, obviously a league that's not as physical, you could say, not as aggressive as the Premier League, and he's brought in these tactics, these hard man tactics that have actually worked last season. Obviously went on to score so many goals for Chelsea. This season players are used to it. Defenders know how he plays, and as long as they don't get wound up, unlike Gabriel, obviously a new player for Arsenal, probably not used to the likes of Diego Costa, where he came from, but players have played against him already, and they know exactly how he's going to play a game, and they're dealing with it in the exact manner that he cannot handle, and that's probably the only reason why he's struggling so much.
Can Mourinho change Costa? Would he want to change Costa? Could any new manager change Costa?
I think if any manager can change Diego Costa, it's got to be Mourinho, or possibly Pep Guardiola. Other than that, can you really think of anybody else? Obviously, you look back at Sir Alex Ferguson, he'd have him sorted, but that's long gone.
Yep.
Do you think if Costa had gone to Manchester United, do you think he'd still continue his vein of form that he was in last season?
Yeah, I mean, I think he would be
a Manchester United under Sir Alex Ferguson. I'm trying to think about. Yeah,
I mean, I think even like these sort of more liberal managers, could you say, like Van Gaal and like Arsene Wenger and like Jurgen Klopp, could sort of tame the unwanted sort of anger out of Diego Costa. He's an angry man, and it shows on the pitch, and it's going against him.
But yeah, obviously you could talk about Ivanovic, you could talk about Fabregas. Diego Costa is a massive part of that Chelsea side. He had such a good season last season. Obviously did he score in his first 6 games or something last season? He obviously involved in 6 goals in his first 6 or 7 games last season, and his record this season's been very, very poor. And we can't really make excuses for him. It's as a goal scorer, as a striker, it's what he's on the pitch to do. And if Chelsea found a better player to put at the side of him, maybe you could argue that they'd be doing a lot better. Maybe it's too late now. They can bolster it up in January, but they brought in Radamel Falcao. It was played very, very little. Yeah, exactly. They've played very, very little first team football. He went to Manchester United and became arguably a laughing stock.
I mean, like, I was a massive fan of Falcao. I was a massive fan of him, and I don't blame Mourinho for taking that chance on him, because I just don't think the Premier League.
He's not been the same since his ligament injury, his knee ligament injury.
I think injuries haven't done him any favours.
But whether it's confidence or it just seems to have taken a turn for the worse, similar to what Fernando Torres did.
I'm surprised Falcao. I mean, I don't blame Mourinho for trying to bring him in and change his fate, but I'm surprised Falcao wanted to stay in England.
Yeah, me too. I don't think the league suits him whatsoever.
No.
He obviously did so well at Atletico Madrid, and then he did well at Monaco. Was it Atletico Madrid he was at?
Yeah, Monaco, yeah.
And then he went to Monaco, and he was doing well there as well, but before his injury and then after his injury, he just not seemed to be the right player. And for Chelsea to have 2 world-class strikers of yesteryear on the pitch at the same time, to be performing at the level that they are, is just simply not good enough, and it will not do anything for Chelsea's challengers.
And I think luckily for Chelsea fans, their safety net, they've got something to fall back on. Their European campaign, hell of a lot easier than Arsenal, I must say. But quick question now, one word, where are Chelsea finishing this season?
8th.
5th.
You think they'll have a massive second half at season?
I just think they've still got the strength to carry them through, but over the weeks I've just thought, not top four.
No, but you've got to look at the teams that are going to finish around there. Obviously, Everton are always there or thereabouts. I think Southampton have been brilliant. They'll be there or thereabouts. Liverpool are in there. They'll be there or thereabouts come the end of the season. Is there any other teams? There's Tottenham, there's Arsenal, there's Man City, there's Man United. There's just so many different sides that I think will just end up topping them. And I think...
you've named 7 there, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly. 7 sides that could finish quite easily above Chelsea. What's the gap between... I'm struggling here in terms of the table. The gap between Chelsea and 7th place now, I'm guessing, is around 9 points, something maybe a bit less.
It's 11 points to the top 4. 13 points to the top 4.
So
they're on 11 points.
So, I mean, obviously it can be done. It's a 3-game swing with such a large number of games left, but you've just got to think, unless they've turned it around now, straight away after the international break.
Well, they had a good game against Stoke, didn't they?
Yeah.
They were unlucky to lose that.
They were, yeah. But it's games like that they should be winning.
Yeah.
Stoke City
last year they would have
should be a 3-point game.
Last year they would have beat Stoke.
Yeah, it's a tough place to go, the Britannia. Obviously, when they come to Stamford Bridge as well. It's always a tough game against Stoke because they're a big game team. They're a team that seems to struggle against smaller sides, such as Norwich and West Brom and the likes. But they always seem to perform against big sides. But you'd expect a Chelsea team with the likes of obviously Diego Costa, Fabregas, Pedro. They should be beating Stoke City. They should, and there's no more excuses you can really muster for them.
Yeah,
they're a side that should not be where they are.
It's really mysterious, isn't it?
We won't know why it's happening.
We try to dig into it as much as possible. I don't think the whole deal with Eva Carneiro helped.
Yeah, that's massive. Just so much media attention on Mourinho and the way that the club's being run at the minute. I think there's that much media attention looking at that they just cannot concentrate to the matters on the pitch that are most important.
Exactly, and no journalist can seem to get a word with Mr. Roman upstairs.
No, and Mourinho was just as stubborn in the after-match press conferences and the rest of it. But yeah, it's Chelsea, massive talking point come the end of the season. I'm sure we'll touch upon it more in the coming weeks. But obviously, just to wrap up with it, we've got to look ahead to this weekend's fixtures. Obviously, we've already touched upon City and Liverpool. There's a big game going forward. Obviously, you want to talk about Arsenal's chances. And, is it Saturday or Sunday that they play?
Saturday, 3 o'clock.
Saturday, 3 o'clock. How rare is that?
Yeah, not
very often. Do you think they'll win it?
I think Arsenal. I think it seems a bit of a 1-0 away from home. Just try and dig that out, keep a clean sheet. As for City, Liverpool, it's really difficult to tell.
You can't call it, can you?
I can see both teams scoring, but I think City's quality might see them through. It's a big game for Raheem Sterling. Big game for him.
Oh, huge game for Raheem Sterling. Is it at Anfield or is it at the Etihad? Or we're not certain.
I think it's at the Etihad. I'm not
Either
sure.
way, it'll be a frosty reception. Leeds have got, obviously, moving into the Championship now. Me being a Leeds fan, obviously touch upon the fact that Rotherham are in town on Saturday. Steve Evans playing against his old club for the first time.
Yeah.
Obviously Leeds on a bit of form. Obviously smashed Huddersfield 3-0 the other week.
Yeah.
We'll leave that there. Leeds got Rotherham on Saturday. Rotherham struggling. Leeds probably the most informed team, most informed that they've been this season. I can't see any other result other than a Leeds win. Touch wood.
I think Leeds. I think it's one for the 3 points. That one.
Just really quickly, who do we think's going to get promoted out of the Championship?
I think Hull will win it.
Hull will win it. I think Derby will be there or there, but they always are. But I think finally this time, I mean, they started off pretty rocky. But I was at the Derby Huddersfield game the other week, and they were just so good going forward. Bradley Johnson's such a massive signing. It pains me to say it. He's an ex-Leeds lad. But he's such a massive player. He's influential at Derby. So
I think for Derby is they want to get to the Prem as soon as possible and try and wipe out the memories of that 11-point season.
Yeah, exactly.
07-08, one win.
We only have to look at teams like Leicester. We didn't talk about Leicester earlier in terms of the teams that could finish above Chelsea. I said Leicester in current form been unbelievable. Ranieri was, when he came in, he was such a controversial name. It's like, oh, it's a strange one. Why is Ranieri taking? He's worked wonders at Leicester. And if he can continue how they are, especially with Jamie Vardy, if he can continue his form, they might end up finishing above Chelsea as well. That
would be, I mean, if you try to get odds on that before the beginning of the season, people thought Leicester would have second season syndrome, and now people tipping them to finish above the champions.
Before Ranieri came in, when I saw that Leicester were going to go into the season potentially with Nigel Pearson still at the helm, I thought Leicester would have been bottom three. Ranieri came in, he's brought in Mahrez, who's been sublime. Vardy just seems like a new player.
Well, Mahrez is like Vardy, he's a new player. Pearson didn't quite get the best out of him.
No, he's brought a new side to Mahrez that no Leicester fan or football fan itself.
The one piece of tactic that has pleased me the most this season from any manager was when Leicester played at Norwich. People thought their form had finally run out. Vardy had already scored in 7 games in a row, and then Norwich were figuring out how to play against Mahrez all week in training, and Ranieri stuck him on the bench, and Leicester have won 2-1. That's
unbelievable, because you've got to imagine Mahrez, massive danger man, and they're thinking we need to come back to the Championship game soon, Championship table in a second. But just as we're touching upon Leicester, Norwich must have spent days trying to think about how to deal with Vardy and Mahrez. And when to leave Mahrez out is such a massive thing to do.
It's a big gamble, isn't it?
Oh, a huge gamble. And it could have bitten like Ranieri where it hurts, but it came back and it was such a good decision. Because when they came through with that and beat Norwich, unbelievable. But yeah, back to the Championship. We'll finish up soon.
Yeah. So we've got the table up here.
Yeah. Let's have a look at this. Right, Hull City obviously out in front. Brighton have started well.
Brighton are level on points with Hull.
Yeah, level on points with Hull. I think they will eventually slip down. I think they'll finish in the playoffs. I think Derby, Borough, I think Burnley maybe are still up there. Burnley in third, but I think they'll drop away. Sean Dyche is a good manager. I've got to admit that. Birmingham City, they're always there or thereabouts, especially under manager now that they've got. Can we see anywhere else? Nah, anybody else in that table?
I mean, I've always liked the look of Ipswich when they've played, but they're still. I mean, they're 4 points off the playoff still, which is
10 points off the top,
which is nothing considering how long we've got left of the season. So it's still a poser, but
I think I'm going to go for Hull City to win it. I think they're just too strong, and they've still got a lot of good players. I think Derby to finish second for this. Obviously, they've tried so hard, and they've got to playoff finals last season and lost it right at the death. And I think Middlesbrough as well. I think Middlesbrough will finally do it on the playoffs. Obviously, to lose out against Norwich was just. God,
I think it'd be Hull and Derby the first two.
Yeah.
Middlesbrough looking with a vengeance now. They got Stuart Downing obviously back, which I mean at Championship level, what a player to have in your squad. But I think Burnley will go back up. I think we touched on Tom Heaton if he can keep his form going. I mean Burnley they won at Blackburn, they won the derby. They've got a huge amount of confidence, and I think they can kick on. And I don't think they're quite as strong as Hull or Derby, but if they, I mean, the playoffs can be a little bit of a luck of the draw sort of scenario. But
long way to go in the season.
I'd tip Burnley.
But Burnley, you think? I think Middlesbrough. I think Burnley and Middlesbrough might be
could be a little Wembley final. Yeah,
it could be a Wembley final. Right, should we end it there?
Yeah, we shall.
Yeah, it's been a pretty fun first episode. We've touched upon obviously the Euros, the Paris attacks. We didn't want to go into too much detail with that. Obviously, it's been massive in terms of what's happened in France, and obviously it's affected many sports occasions this week, and I'm sure it will continue to do so. But we'll try to look forward to the positive side. Talked about the Euros in 2016, and I think we've got quite a lot talked about. It's been pretty good.
Yeah, and next week we'll look ahead to after these Premier League fixtures that we've been talking about. We'll be talking about the aftermath of them, and we'll touch more on the domestic game, among other things. So,
yeah, I've been Jake Wills Hobson,
and I've been Dan Godfrey. Bye for now.